Sam Gordon is a game changer. Sam grew up with a passion for football. From a young age, she played against all male competitors. She didn't just play, she dominated. At 9 years old, she scored 25 touchdowns, converted 10 extra points, and rushed for nearly 2,000 yards in a single season, averaging over 8 yards per carry in an all-male league. When Sam was 9 years old, a YouTube video went viral. In 2017, Sam and her father joined 5 other Utah Girls Tackle Football League players to file a Title IX lawsuit against 3 different school districts in Salt Lake County. Sam Gordon is tackling equality.
First off, I want to say this is an awesome conference, and thank you for inviting me to share my journey in sports with you. When I was in 4th grade, I decided I wanted to play organized tackle football. I love to play in neighborhood games in the backyard and during recess at school. So when my dad told me that I could play in an actual league with real coaches and real plays and people cheering on the sideline, I jumped at the chance. Football is tough. The physicality, drills, conditioning, discipline, and intensity are unmatched by any other sport I've played. When I showed up to football tryouts as a 9-year-old, it was serious business. There was an actual draft, and players competed to catch the eye of the coaches and make the best teams by performing well in speed and agility drills. My goal was to make the top team, the A team. I had been training, doing speed and agility drills 3 times a week for 6 months to get stronger and faster. I killed it at tryouts. I took first place in every single speed and agility drill out of the 172 boys there. Objectively, I deserved to make the A team, but that's not how the draft played out. The coaches picked 80 boys ahead of me. It was all I could do to hold back the tears. As a 9-year-old, I didn't yet understand what I've learned in the years since. To them, it didn't matter how fast I was, how much I could help them win, or whether I was good at football. All they saw was that I was a girl. That hurt me so bad, but I didn't have the words to explain why. At 9 years old, I was too young to even know what sex discrimination meant, but I wasn't too young to know how it felt. And without a doubt, I know that if I live to be 100, I'll never forget that feeling. Not only was I hurt, I was angry. I decided I was going to prove to those coaches that they made a mistake. In my first game and on my first carry, I scored a touchdown. I scored 5 touchdowns that game on just 8 carries. I thought that by making great plays on the field, I would overcome the prejudice, and that the coaches, players, and parents would realize that I belonged. Unfortunately, the better I did, the more I saw discrimination and hatred. Opposing teams' parents and fans would scream, "Beat the girl!" Once, when I dodged a tackle and scored a touchdown, a dad grabbed his son's face mask in front of me and yelled at him, "Don't let a girl beat you." Another time, a coach told a player, a 9-year-old boy, to take me out by injuring me on the kickoff after I'd scored my 3rd touchdown of the game. The ball was kicked to the opposite side of the field. I wasn't even part of the play and wasn't looking when he depleted me. Football is the king of the sports world. The highest paid state employee in Utah, where I live, and in more than half of the other states in the United States, is a college football coach, a men's college football coach. The multi-million-dollar salaries paid to coaches pale in comparison to what universities spent on football training facilities and stadiums. To give one example, Texas A&M spent $485 million when it recently renovated its stadium. Schools have this kind of money to spend on their head coaches because Americans love football. 43 of the top most watched sporting events during 2018 were football games. The other 7 were Winter Olympic events. Nothing else made the top 50. No NBA games, no World Cup games, no baseball games, nothing else. Like I said, football is king. But there are virtually no opportunities for women in the world of football. There is no question that the current lineup of sports offered to girls and women was the result of sexist stereotypes held by men. No girls were allowed to play any high school sports at all in Utah until 1972, when Title IX, a federal law that prohibits educational institutions from discriminating based on sex, became law. Only about 290,000 girls across the country played high school sports at the time. That number skyrocketed to over 2 million just 6 years after Title IX became law. The explosion in participation was not due to a sudden interest among girls to play sports, but because girls were finally given the opportunity to play. But the dirty little secret is that girls and women had no say in what sports they got to play. Girls were pushed into individual sports like gymnastics, swimming, tennis, or track, and later non-contact team sports like volleyball and soccer. And instead of baseball, girls were told they had to play softball. Even as girls made headway in sports, the undisputed king of American sports has remained close to us. Football is still a man's game. I would like to say that the time has come to change that. But in fact, the time is long past. My goal is simple. I want every school with a football team to offer a girls' football team. Equality in education can never be achieved without equality in sports offerings. Let me explain why. First, football provides opportunities to girls who are not served by the current sports offerings. Football is for girls of all shapes and sizes. Many of the girls who play football aren't built to run up and down a basketball court or soccer field, but they can block and tackle. Football also gives girls from economically disadvantaged communities a sport they can play. It's no secret that women's college athletics programs cater to girls from wealthy homes who can afford to pay to play club sports. The youth football leagues charge a couple of $100 compared to thousands charged by club volleyball, soccer, and lacrosse teams. There is much greater racial and economic diversity on a football field than on a tennis court or on the golf course. Additionally, girls and women deserve the same use and access to the billions of dollars of public resources that schools currently spend only on male students. Only then can women fairly compete for jobs in sports industries as broadcasters, scouts, referees, coaches, or athletic directors. Finally, offering women's football teams would help eliminate the second-class status of women that results from schools' refusal to allow women to participate in the most highly valued extracurricular activity they offer. According to our schools, only men deserve to play our nation's most popular sport. Men like to say that women's sports only exist because of funding from men's football, that women should not be heard to complain about inequities in their sports programs because women are receiving a handout from men. But the game is rigged. Men have handicapped women's ability to generate revenue by forcing women to play sports that have little interest among spectators. Let me repeat what I said earlier. 43 of the top 50 most watched sporting events during 2018 were football games. Of course, women's sports do not generate as much revenue and media attention as men's sports when women are prohibited from fielding teams in the most popular sport. People will watch women's football. The NFL invited 2 high school all-star teams from our girls' league to play an exhibition match during halftime of this past year's NFL Pro Bowl game. We played in front of 54,000 fans. Those fans cheered louder for us than they did for the pros. Fans will tune in to watch their school's women's football teams compete against their rivals. I see women's football as an untapped opportunity for schools, but my school still sees it as a boys' sport. I tried to make the case with my school that they should offer girls football. Nothing I could say made a difference. One administrator said he would rather shut down the boys' football teams than let girls play football. My reaction was the same as when I was passed over by coaches when I was 9. I was hurt, and then I got mad and filed a lawsuit. My attorneys argued that schools violate the Constitution by offering a different lineup of sports to boys, which includes football, than the lineup of sports offered to girls, which does not include football. And under our Title IX claim, the judge has already ruled against the schools that they fail to provide equal numbers of participation opportunities to girls. The schools claim that girls do not want to play football, but the schools had never asked. We pointed to the nearly 500 girls who play tackle football in our girls' league. They dismissed our league as a fad. We showed them that the number one athletic activity that girls participated in at the schools was flag football tournaments, the schools called Powder Puff. Girls referred to Powder Puff in yearbooks with phrases of empowerment like girls are tough and girls run the world. Girls said Powder Puff was important because it was the one opportunity they get to play football. The schools said the tournaments meant nothing and were just another homecoming activity. Deep into our lawsuit, the schools were so certain that girls were not interested in playing tackle football, they did the one thing that Title IX says they were already supposed to be doing regularly. They conducted a survey. They gave girls a list of over 20 sports, including the sports that the schools already offered, and asked girls to mark those that girls had an interest in playing. Then the girls were asked to rank their top 3 choices. The schools conducted the survey in October. A couple of months went by and we asked for the results. The schools said they weren't ready. We kept asking. They kept stalling and refusing. Their response felt fishy. We finally had to get a court order to get the schools to turn the survey results over. The results were devastating to the schools. The survey results showed that more than 1,500 girls would rank girls tackle football as one of the top 3 sports they are interested in playing. To put that in perspective, more girls said they are interested in playing tackle football than most of the sports already offered by schools, including cross country, golf, lacrosse, swimming, tennis, and track and field. Girls have spoken. We want to play football. But if you think that the schools are now going to offer girls football teams just because their own survey showed that football was one of the top sports that girls were interested in playing, you'd be wrong. Instead, they say they plan to delay my case until I graduate and my lawsuit is dismissed as moot. Like the football coach who told his player to take me out with a cheap shot, the schools are taking a cheap shot by engaging in delayed tactics. What you didn't see in that video of the boy decleating me was that after he hit me, I popped right back up, dusted the dirt off my shoulders, and kept competing. And I plan to do the same thing with the schools. My voice will not be ignored.
Sam, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring story with us.
Yeah, for
As
sure.
we turn to the Q&A, we are now going to bring in Lauren Washburn. Lauren is a partner at Smith Washburn and is representing Sam in her Title IX lawsuit. After graduating from Harvard Law School, Lauren completed a clerkship with Andrew in the U.S. Court of Appeals of the 10th Circuit, and then spent 8 years as a federal prosecutor. So thank you, Lauren, for joining us today.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Lauren, can I ask you to just talk briefly about a little bit more about the case and where it is in the process, and just inform the audience about that?
Certainly. So our lawsuit has 2 basic claims. One, as Sam mentioned, is an equal protection claim that the most popular sport in America is provided really only to men, at least in high schools here in Utah. That claim is, we're in a summary judgment. We've had argument on that and are awaiting the court's ruling on that. The other track, which Sam also mentioned, is a Title IX component. Here in Utah, I think as in many other states, there's substantially disproportionate participation opportunities. Here we've got about 40,000 boys opportunities to play sports in high school and only about 30,000 girls opportunities. And it's not because girls aren't showing up for the teams. Every team that girls can participate in high school sports in Utah is basically fully subscribed. So that lawsuit asks that the schools be compelled to add more opportunities for girls until that number is equal. The specific remedy we're asking for is that one of those sports that they add be girls football, but really it's a request that they provide women equal opportunity in athletics, which they're not doing at all. As Sam mentioned, we just recently, within the last month, got a survey that showed that literally thousands of girls in these 3 school districts, I think largely because of Sam and the others who've been playing girls tackle football in the Girls Tackle Football League here in Utah for about 5 or 6 years, literally thousands of girls are interested in playing girls tackle football, but the school districts have been dismissive. So we're at the summary judgment phase. We've just supplemented our summary judgment motion with those survey results, and fingers crossed within the next month, we'll get a ruling from the judge.
Great, thank you, Lauren. Sam, so we have a question for you. What goals do you have for yourself over the next 10 years? And Tony adds that you're an inspiration to all of us, and everybody's excited to see what comes next for you.
Well, thank you, Tony. I think in the next 10 years, there's definitely a lot that I want to accomplish, especially with this girls tackle football league. I really want to push it into high schools and keep fighting the schools and giving more girls the opportunity to play sports, especially building it into high schools and into colleges and even to a professional league, because it has the potential to get there. More personally, of course, want to go to college, try and play sports in college, and who knows from there.
Awesome. Another question we have is, do you have an opinion about whether amateur athletes should be compensated or share in any revenue stream? So this may look more towards the college conversation that's being had at the NCAA level right now. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You have these college athletes that, I mean, you get to March Madness and the playoffs for football, and they're definitely generating a lot of revenue for schools. And being an athlete is not an easy thing, especially for them. It's, something like a job. So maybe it's not the same revenue as you would get with, the pros and everything. But I think opening up the opportunity for NCAA athletes to have sponsors and promotions and be able to use their own brand to benefit themselves, I think that should definitely be an opportunity that's open for them.
Great. Max asks, he actually broadcasted women's sports throughout his time in undergraduate and saw firsthand the lack of interest at the highest levels of collegiate sports within collegiate sport administrators in growing women's sports, right? The lack of the support. So he's asking, what obstacles other than having the players do you see as the biggest challenge to growing women's sport?
Just in sports in general, or specifically?
Women's sports in general.
I think a big part of it is what I mentioned about, football is the most popular sport, and a lot of the most popular sports in the men's world, you really only see football, baseball, and basketball, and you don't really see the outlook in men's sports in general and the other sports. And when it comes to girls athletics, we're not really offered the same opportunities to infiltrate those three most popular sports in America. So I think a lot of that comes with, building up the brand for those women's sports, offering football to give them the opportunity to battle and play in the most popular sport in America. I think another thing is you've seen it with women's soccer teams here in Utah, and I think in Portland has done the same thing, where they have used the brand of the already existing men's team to build their women's team off of that, and it's been very successful for them. They get fans out there because people are loyal to their teams. So I think really just pushing, the brand of their women's teams and working on increasing that and getting people to become loyal and engaged in their sport.
Great. So as a follow-up to Max's question, Ryan asks, why do you think there's such feverish opposition to women's tackle football?
I think there's a little bit of opposition to girls football. The schools haven't really given us a clear answer on why, and I think a lot of it is just the stereotype and stigmas that come along with football, and that girls shouldn't be playing a sport that's meant for the boys. It is frustrating sometimes because it's really, we haven't gotten a clear answer more than just they shouldn't offer it to us, because then it would be a different gate than other sports that have been wanting to get it. Would we just be skipping the line? So we haven't really gotten a lot of clear answers on why the opposition is so strong.
Okay. Trinity asks, Sam, how many all-girls football teams are in the league that you play in, and how many women participate in this league?
So in the last year, we had around 500 girls, so it's been awesome. Our very first year, we had about 50. We've grown up a lot. I think in our high school division, we had 8 separate teams. And it's definitely grown exponentially. It's been amazing to see. This year we were hoping to get around 600. Obviously the season has been kind of put on pause for a while, but it's definitely growing very quickly. We can see our high school age group is our largest age group. And once the girls start, we have an elementary age group. We see them coming back year after year. So it's going to just keep growing, and it's awesome.
And Samantha asks, is the men's football team, or are there men's football teams that have been supportive of your efforts and your advocacy for women's football?
Yeah, so one of the main supporters we've gotten is actually the NFL has helped us out a bunch with allowing us to play, the Pro Bowl at the halftime was an amazing experience. They've supported me from day one with bringing me out to games and the NFL Game Changer Award. So I definitely think we do have people here to support us, and it's going to take time, and I think eventually we will get there because we've had awesome support, and it's just breaking down the barriers that exist.
Great. And next question is, why shouldn't there be a gender neutral team? Does this satisfy the legal requirements under the current SCOTUS rulings? And I think this is for Lauren.
Sure. So there are a couple of answers to that. One of them is that a gender neutral team, that's actually one of the answers that we've gotten from the school districts here, is that the boys football team, and many of the high schools actually call it the boys football team, is open for girls to participate in. The reality is that when we got the survey results back from girls, what they told us was that girls were 30 times as interested. That is, 30 times more likely to list girls tackle football as a sport that they wanted to play most than co-ed football. The school districts and the High School Activities Association here in Utah have argued that all they need to do is open the door, even maybe pretextually, to have it be gender neutral, and that they're providing equal opportunity. We think for a number of reasons, both because girls tend not to be as interested, also a troubling part of this that we've seen anecdotally just in talking to the students here in Utah who participate on co-ed teams is that there's substantial sexual harassment, even sexual assault that's happened to many of the girls who show up to play on the boys football team, and they're inevitably marginalized, having to do things like go into a different locker room so that they miss the halftime locker room speech. One even was left behind because no one came into the girls' locker room at an away game to let her know that they were leaving on the buses. So the opportunity, in theory, opening that door, the equal protection law is a fairly low threshold, but in reality, we think practically it's not providing an equal opportunity at all.
And Lauren, maybe another follow-up for you. There's been a couple questions about evolving, research on brain injuries and other injuries, and how does that, do you think, affect your argument or your views over time?
Certainly. I mean, our argument on a certain level, and I don't mean to be dismissive, but is a little bit agnostic about that. And what I mean by that is this. The moment that Utah, or for that matter, any other state, decides that tackle football is simply too dangerous for adolescents, we anticipate that my plaintiffs will commiserate with their male colleagues who've been playing football all along, and that the fact that the schools decide that it's just not a safe enough option for girls necessarily means that it's not a safe enough option for boys. It's actually been an argument that we have not seen the states make. They've not brought up that danger argument. And while I understand why questioners would say, wait a second, should we be subjecting more adolescents to contact sports? It shines a light, that question shines a light on the hypocrisy that the states have. If CTE concerns and other concerns are given the best evidence that these state actors have, something that the states decide adolescents should not be in an educational environment subjected to, that means all adolescents. And so from our perspective, I'm no scientist. I can go watch the movie Concussion and draw my conclusions about football. But the reality is it remains, more than a million high school students play it every single year. And almost every one of those is a boy. And if those million students shouldn't be subjected to it, so be it. But the notion that we should deny women an opportunity to play a popular sport because it's dangerous while providing that opportunity to men seems both to the extent that states have decided that it's overly dangerous, it seems reckless to provide it to the men, and simultaneously paternalistic and hypocritical not to offer it to girls if indeed it's safe enough to offer to boys.
Great. Well, we have an amazing queue, but we're running out of time. So we're going to ask one more question. This one's going to be for Sam, and this comes from Juliana. The sports industry tends to be more male dominated, and it's inspiring to see someone like yourself fighting this battle. Have you faced any criticism in the process of your actual lawsuit outside of the schools, and how have you overcome that?
I actually personally haven't seen a lot of criticism against it. I don't think a lot of people know about it as much as I would have liked originally, because I think, we're making a statement, we're showing that, okay, the schools aren't going to let us do this by communication, we're going to use the law instead. So there hasn't been a ton of news coverage or anything, so I haven't seen a ton of criticism about it. I think a lot of people misunderstand sometimes what we're trying to accomplish. I was having a conversation with somebody one time, and they're like, well, the schools do comply because they're offering an equal amount of teams. And then, I think a lot of people don't understand exactly what Title IX requires, that it's participants versus teams. So I haven't gotten a lot of criticism at this point, but a lot of misunderstanding, I think, and people not fully comprehending the goal of what we're trying to accomplish.
Thanks so much. Lauren, we really appreciate you taking the time and being with us today. Sam, thank you so much. We're inspired by your story, and we all look forward to seeing not only how the case develops, but we all know you're going to go on to great things in the future, and we look forward to following your career as well.
Thank you.
Have a great day. At this point, we're going to do a quick transition into our student awards.